Good evening. August 25th, 2021. We're entering the last quarter of 2021, which, I find freaking nuts. 2020 was pretty much a wash. 2021 seems like people were trying to, or at least I was kind of lifting myself up and dusting myself off, I suppose. Might be a good way to phrase it. But 2021's almost gone. 2022. There was a time, not very long ago, when I quite seriously, with a very serious mindset, thought to myself, well, the year 2000 is coming up, and you'll be in your late 20s when it's the year 2000. So pretty much whatever you've made of your life by that time, that's about it. The 21st century for you is going to be winding down everything that you've done the 21st century is going to be winding down everything that you built up in the 20th century. So you better have built up all the shit that you want come New Year's Eve, 1999. Some of you might remember that was Y2K was on everybody's minds. And at the time, my significant other was a bit of a Mennonite and in spirit. And I remember we spent New Year's Eve, 1999, in a tent somewhere in Central Florida with other like-minded people. Now, lest you think for a moment that I bought into the idea that the world was going to end that evening, I didn't. Obviously, I didn't. Well, maybe not obviously, but I didn't. But there was certainly like a group of people who were, even if they were saying like, well, yeah, I don't think the world's going to end. There were a lot of people who were kind of like on edge about, maybe not about the world ending, but about what was going to happen. And certainly like it was like that flip over on the odometer, when the century changes as dramatically as that, it makes you think a lot of weird things. So yeah, I spent New Year's Eve that evening hot, sweating like crazy. And I remember thinking, what kind of world is this where it's January 1st and it's like 1 a.m. and it's still 90 degrees out. So anyway, yeah. So, and where was I at that point in my life? Let's see. I had just moved. So, yeah. That was right at the time that I was leaving a job at a game developer in Orlando, game developer called Nspace. We're neighbors and friendly rivals with Tiburon, which was a Electronic Arts owned subsidiary that did all of the sports games. Didn't want to work at Tiburon, but worked at Nspace. We did Duke Nukem Time to Kill and Danger Girl and some other stuff too. Played a lot of Mario Kart on lunch. Went to this weird Castle Grayskull looking haunted house sometimes for lunch, just because it's right there on I-Drive. You could, hop in your car and in 2 minutes you'd be at the Ripley's, believe it or not, whatever the heck place that was. Sorry, I did not put my phone in airplane mode. Before I keep going off on this, I got to get this in me. Cheers. And I still have not fixed this, right? I've got this, got the camera for the Coke opening positioned right over my video switcher and mixer, which is the worst possible place. Anyway, so I'd been working at InSpace, and some friends of mine who I'd worked with before working at InSpace, was my first job in the games industry, had decided to, one of us was actually serious about their career and ended up going to, was it Mattel at the time? It was THQ, a game company called THQ, but working on Mattel stuff, Hot Wheels, etc. Had become like vice president at Mattel while the rest of us did nothing. But that person was like, hey, start your own game development house, and we will contract you to make games. And that's what happened. And I was around that time, I was like, well, at that time, I wanted to move back to Miami. It was more money. And it was the chance to sort of be a founding partner of a game studio. So that was right in that window. We started that, I want to say we started that like in February of 2000, but I think it actually might have been a little before. I don't know. I don't remember. But that's where I had been up until 2000. I was, working for a small to medium-sized game development house in Orlando, Florida, surrounded by all the lights and luster that is Disney World and Epcot. And there were rumors that, wasn't rumors, there were actual literal rumblings from the construction going on of a new park called Islands of Adventure, which would eventually, become Harry Potter World, whatever the hell that became. No, that place, they had opened already. Sorry, I'm mixing up my chronology here, because I would occasionally go to the City Walk they had there, and there was a themed by decade bars, and there was a jazz bar, like a 40s I think like a 40s themed jazz bar. You could go in and you could pretend it was the 40s again when everything was shit, but the music was good. So by that logic, right, my life had amounted to a hill of beans at that point. But it felt so real to me, and in part, aided by this arbitrary resetting of the clock, or, flipping over of the odometer, however you want to look at it. The Mayans predicting end of the world, etc. Jerry Falwell doing the same. Oral Roberts at the time, I think. Robert. Who was the guy? There was that preacher who used to speak in tongues. Robert Tilton. He would say, I'm gonna get in touch with the power of the Holy Ghost, and then he'd literally go like, and just waggle his tongue a bit. And somehow, his congregation did not laugh. They opened up their pocketbooks. Not smart. Anyway, is there a point for me bringing that up? I guess maybe the point would be if you're in your late 20s and you think, shit, I have not accomplished 30. What am I going to do? Use this as I'm about to say use this as a tale of inspiration, but now I'm similarly staring at 50. Hurts me to even say that. Hurts me every time. But it's there. It's just around the proverbial. And even though I've done a lot of different things in the last almost 20 years, and there's no way, certainly not then, but no, there's no way, like, at any point that I would have predicted anything of what I'm doing professionally, where I'm living, what my situation is. I couldn't have predicted one bit of that. To TLDR it for you, my high school sweetheart, who broke my heart shortly after high school. We dated for 5 years. Broke up with me. I never really got over that person. And every relationship I had in the 90s and the early 2000s was sort of tainted by this legend that I had in the back of my head about this person. But of course, it wasn't really about this person. It was about this time period, who this person was a large part of, but inextricably tied to the period of life where you feel invincible and that the world is kind of yours, at least for me, and from a position of privilege, right? I felt that way. So that person sort of hung over me for 15 years, and then we ended up getting back together and getting married and having a child, and then realizing that we were both sort of romanticizing an idea that was really about a time and not about a person, and went our separate ways and are now like really good friends, which is something I don't think I would have ever believed to have been possible. And had we not gotten back together, I don't think it would have been possible, because it would have just been the legend. The legend was printed in my head. Yes, do I have him here? Yeah. I very much had these on from about 1995 to 2015. Rose-colored glasses. These aren't really rose-colored. They're very, very red, but the idea there was that they're rose-colored glasses. Pretend with me. Give me that little tiny bit of... Here, I'll crank up the LUT. No, they look less rose when I crank up the LUT. I'll crank down the LUT. Oh, I'm putting the LUT back right where it was. Just pretend they were rose. Anyway, and now, now we're coming into 2022, staring down. Really, I mean, when you think about it, like, I'm staring down double nickels. Double nickels on the dime. That's rough. That's rough. To those of you who were worried about my not feeling well, It was my stomach. I did not feel well. So it's not anything serious, but thank you for asking. Or expressing some kind of concern. Okay. Let's say hi. Have you all seen, hopefully you've all seen the art that Q commissioned from Erebus Adora. I think I showed it. I mean, if you're on this channel, you've seen it. I ended up changing it a bit for the channel banner. Not because there was anything wrong with it, but because the way YouTube crops it, I had to move just a couple things around so that it was. Oh, this is actually the original one that Q sent me. But either way, I thought that was nice. And Erebus Adora always does like such a great job of making me look presentable and like doing all this crazy stuff. The line work, love that line work. It's weird. My profile picture at work is something that Erebus Adora did. So when I get on Zoom calls, everybody has like a photo of them, and then I have this. It feels a little self-centered of me. I have this piece of art that makes me look, way better than I actually do. And then, I go on camera and the art disappears. And I'm sure more than one person has had the thought, that guy thinks he looks like that picture, but guess what? He don't. He don't look like that picture. Hi, Hocus Pocus, Stupor Mundi, Samantha Q, Maddie G, QQ, Colorful Dreams. Yeah, I'm okay. If I have to run, I will. You'll see the standby card come up with the music that you love. Ooh, I have new music. It's in progress. Here, let's see if I play it a little bit here. It's just gonna. I was messing around in Ableton and I had this riff that I liked. That's just inversions of a D chord descending, which you hear right now. And then when I recorded, I was like, I don't really like it. But then there was another part that I added to it. I didn't really like that other part. But then when I recorded it, I ended up liking the other part and not really liking this part so much. And there's like some bullshit playing over the top of it here. I don't know what's gonna stay. Got a lot of harmonics. There's too much going on. It's busy. It's too busy. This harmonic's gonna come down. It's weird. You listen to something over and over again, you're convinced that it sounds right. You don't hear it for a while. It's like not looking in the mirror for a couple weeks. But I like Ableton a lot. I like the way it lets you it makes it so easy to record and blend things. So that you can just like cut pieces out. And what I do, like for this, right? I recorded a whole bunch of shit and then moved the parts around and like put some bits in other places. And it just makes it kind of seamlessly go. And I threw like this drum sample in there, just to have something there. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe if I slow it down, it could be like an ambient thing for the behind the video. I'm not sure. But yeah, now it's just doing like variations. I'm just trying stuff out. Anyway, I won't bore you with the whole thing. But yeah, I'm feeling okay. Thanks for asking. KJ, how are you doing? Lexi, hi. Pavi, hello. It's hot as hell here still. I'm such a complainer. I want it to be cooler, but as soon as it gets cooler, I'm going to start complaining about that. Oh man, Q, tornado warnings. We had some of those here about a week ago when I was losing power, maybe 2 weeks ago. But I think here they're kind of like a joke. I think where you are, they're serious business. Oh man, Lexi, that sucks. Warp Raven, how are you doing? Elxie, hi. Oh look, it is Arabisadora right here. Ooh, I feel weird talking about the art. I didn't know that Erebus was here. Hi, Erebus. If you're still here. I'm so behind in the chat. Who knows? Lirio. Hi. Laren Lee. Hello. Grace Grove. How are you doing? All right. Let me get to the bottom here. Mick. Greetings from the US of A. But feels dirty to say that. Butterfly Composer. I'm reliving my ramble by going through the comments. It's great. Yeah, but I mean the levels of complexity they're a bit different, right? Hi Kai, how are you doing? Been waiting to hear what games I worked on. A lot of bad games. Yeah, a lot of bad games. And a few games that were okay. And the games that I worked on that I think are objectively good, I did stuff, well, I don't want to put down I did character animations or something, right? What I'm saying is, and that's very important. However, it's not necessarily integral, especially at the time that I did them, integral to whether the core mechanics of a game are any good or not. So even though I worked on Civilization 2, but not as a game designer, which is, that would be the good part of working on Civilization. I did work on quests and dialogue and the theft system, the justice system on Elder Scrolls Online. So, and is that good? Some people like it, some people don't. I liked it while I was working on it, but MMOs have never really been my thing. I mean, I played Warcraft for a while, Guild Wars. I played MMOs because they were my job, really. I didn't really love them. Destiny. Ramona, how are you doing? I realize I'm sounding like Joey when I say that. That's not how I mean it. I said hi to Maddie already, didn't I? If I did, I said it in my head. Maybe I didn't say it aloud. I saw Maddie's avatar and I said hi. And then maybe I vocalized it. Maybe I didn't. Miza, how are you doing? Miza. Shit. I don't remember how to say your name. Why would you apologize for that? I mean, forgetting it's Wednesday, that might be a bigger issue than missing a stream. Nico Trash, how are you doing? Leela Broom. Ava, I would love when I see that profile picture. The green and the red. It manages to do green and red without evoking Christmas, which, from my point of view, is quite difficult. Many times I've been lighting a video and I've had green and red appear and I immediately think, crap, that looks like Christmas. Gotta change it. Okay, Kai wants to hear more game development stories. I've told most of them. I've already told most of them. Oh, Jerry, screw you. Good Lord. Psychonauts 2 came out today. I'm excited to play Psychonauts 2. But of course, Psychonauts 1 is now 16 years old. So that was one of those. And then there are always these things going around. I remember when there was, I think when we hit 2010, I mean, they always do this, right? It's like 1990 is as far away from us now as 1970 was for you in 1990, right? Like that sort of trying to, I don't know, make you feel bad about yourself, trying to induce despair by saying the year 2000 is, now it's something with the year 1939. So, yeah. So it's 80 years, so 40 years ago, right? So 1980 is as far away from us as 1939 was from 1980. I don't know what the point is of doing that. Is it meant to give you perspective? Does anyone ever see one of those and then their next thought is, I'd better get off my butt, better start doing stuff? Oh, look, I'm a little... See, my signal was a little hot there. Just noticed that. Neil. Oh, I don't know who Neil is. I did not know who Neil was. Yeah, you're not going to get much sympathy from me on that, okay? The thing about being young is all of these problems that you're having will eventually go away. Once you get older, the problems that you have just get worse until you eventually go away. Oh God, people are talking about the glasses now. Lord, Voice Quills, hi. I'm going to race through these. Oh, it was your birthday. Happy birthday. Sorry, I'm looking at your profile picture and I can't tell if the pin is coming through the cheek or not. But yeah, happy birthday. I hope that it's a good one. Okay. So if I'm not saying hi to other people, I'm sorry. I want to get down to the bottom here. So I'm not perpetually lost in the past, both in my inner monologue and in chat. At the very least, at the very least, I could be caught up in chat. Yes, don't forget. No, I'm not. I don't think I'm being negative. I mean, I think it's good to have a healthy dose of humility and realism. I mean, like I said, I still, I feel like some of the stuff I did was okay, right? But by and large, it was a paycheck. a new 742. Hi, how are you doing? Celine. Oh my God. Wow. Well, your brother's on top of their shit. When I was 21, I didn't have crap. All right, I'm coming down to the end here. Okay. Do you want to hear? Wait, what's going on? I am plugged right into my Ethernet cable. That sucks. Let me check the old stream health here. I'm in high quality video mode. Should I come out of high quality video mode? What does that even do? I'm no longer in high quality video mode. Covers up my my H spots a little bit. Oh. No, 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 no. Where is focus on you? Screw it. Stick with this one. I switched it up tonight. I've got the 18 to 35 Sigma on this, which means if I want, I can zoom. Well, actually, I can't zoom in. I can only zoom out. Which isn't great because then the set falls apart. But yeah, that's one of the first lenses I ever bought when I went Canon. The Sigma 18 to 35. I've had it for probably 7 years, 6 or 7 years, and they're just as expensive now as the day they were bought. I could sell that today for 75% of what I bought it for, and I've been using it for 7 years, 6 or 7 years. I hate this too. I found, in this is only in retrospect, right? I didn't realize this at the time, but I think I found I was putting off certain events that people use as these milestones in their life, like getting married, having kids, stuff like that. Because in my head, if I didn't do that stuff, I wasn't an adult yet. And it wasn't my age really that mattered. It was more, have I done these things that make you, more of an adult? So as long as I was still single and I didn't have kids, I was still young, even though I was pushing 40 before I got married. For the second time. First time I got married, I can't really talk about it, can I? Can't talk about that. Was about to talk about it. Wow. I've noticed this, and always I thought it was very cool that not only does it seem like sometimes when I lose, so if I lose connection for a second, then I'll see everything being played at double speed and voices sped up until I get caught back up to where I was supposed to be. Ligma. No. Sigma. Have I talked about the Sigma lens though? I don't know that I have. I haven't used it in a while. It's been sitting on the shelf, collecting dust. It's parfocal, by the way. And very little focus breathing. And when you zoom it, it stays the same size. See, you have most zooms, right? Well, a lot of zooms, when you zoom them, you get a barrel extension, because all it's doing is moving the front element away from the inner elements, and therefore magnifying the image like a little telescope. But Sigma 18 to 35, you do this, and this doesn't happen. Just do like that noise. It's so weighted. Like to bring it back down, like I barely have to touch it. It wants to come back down. But I like how, I like that. That looks cool. And you can see my primary key light with the grid on it there. I don't like lenses that look like that. I like lenses that look like that. No, the lens I was talking about last week was this little puppy, which I haven't used since, and I'll probably never use. I bought it to prove a point. That point being, you can buy a $27 lens, and it looks almost as good as a much more expensive lens. Speaking of which, I don't know how many people will be interested in this news. I was extremely interested in it. One might say dangerously interested in it. There's a camera. It's been out for about a year. And it is the Blackmagic Ursa 12K. Yes, I don't really care about the 12K. That's not what made it interesting to me. What made it interesting to me was the fact that its sensor did not use a Bayer pattern or a traditional RGB Bayer pattern where they would have a red pixel, a blue pixel, and 2 green pixels per photosite. RGB. Right? It has an RGBW sensor, so it has a red pixel, green pixel, blue pixel, and then a luminance pixel, a white pixel. Supposed to reproduce colors far better than a regular Bayer pattern sensor. And on top of that, it's Blackmagic. And on top of that, it's 12K. But on top of that, it's $10,000. However, less than a week ago, I want to say 3 or 4 days ago, the price dropped almost in half. Don't buy cameras if you can't do with the lens what you can do with this lens, you can't do with the camera. People who spent $10,000 on that camera 2 weeks ago and then through some quirk happened upon the fact, they were looking at accessories for the camera and they saw a price drop and they probably went, oh, well, I guess, that's cool. It's been out for a year. Maybe it went down by $500. Maybe it went down by $1,000. And they went and looked at it and bam, $4,000. Crazy. Anyway, you can guess the reason why that's dangerous. A little dangerous to me. Is it all of a sudden becomes a very attractive proposition. Something that I was like, I would never spend that amount of money on a camera. I started looking around and I started thinking, well, if I sell that camera, and I sell that lens, and I sell that, I can swing it. And I can have what was a $10,000 camera just a couple weeks ago. I'm not going to do it. I am staying in the Blackmagic ecosystem because it's what I want to do. It makes things much easier. Just like in the lighting world, I'm staying in the aperture ecosystem. Anyway, enough camera talk. I know everybody likes the camera talk secretly. That's why there were memes made about it. What's been happening this week? There's I mentioned this last week, but now I think it's actually out. The Bob Ross documentary. Haven't gotten to see it yet. Got a new book. Haven't got to read it yet. Racism Without Racists. I actually did read a little bit about it, and it's basically about like all the coded ways that you could be racist. And one of those ways to be coded is to performatively show the kind of things that you're reading, like I just did here. But I'm guessing, like, especially the people that I am familiar with on this channel, like none of this would probably be news to most of y'all. It's good to read, though. It's interesting to see all the book seems to be a lot of research, a lot of collected data, and there might be some self-selection going on there, but I think it's obviously still real. But it's interesting to see what people say when confronted with the issue of equality as a general precept, and then when it directly affects them, right? So, equity, equal opportunity is fine. Affirmative action, well, do you mean at my job? Do you mean like do you mean that I'm not going to get promoted if all of a sudden, like, once that step is taken, the current majority gets a little bit nervous. Start to wonder what the ramifications are for them. They like it to be tomorrow. They like it to be like, our kids are going to have a perfect world. Unfortunately, I think it's too late for our generation. I think our generation probably has to live with these inequalities that I am benefiting from. But 50 years from now, man, it's going to be great. Just not today. Don't do it today. I'm going to have to go back and watch that. Because I would imagine that talk is extremely out of date. You have to do a new version just to address the problems of, hey, in 2016, when I don't remember when that was recorded. I'm going to guess 2016. Hey, in 2016, maybe this was decent camera advice, or maybe I just didn't know what the hell I was talking about. Maybe I don't know what the hell I'm talking about today. I mean, you've got me, on one hand, I'm talking about a $27 lens. The other hand, I'm talking about a $10,000 camera. And let's not forget that $10,000 camera is a 12K camera. And what does that mean? That means you can't put a $27 lens in front of it. You can't at that point. Or you're selling yourself short. But really, I wouldn't care about that, because lenses hold value. Oh, this book has been on this book queue, really? Oh, cool. I'm not sure I don't know where I heard about it. I was in a YouTube hole. I don't remember where it was. But I heard someone talking about it. It might have even been a review of it that I was just kind of clicking through a bunch of them, and it sounded good. It was basically like I went to Amazon and I read the reviews for this. The reviews totally sold me on it, because the reviews were like, this author just hates America. This author hates white people. They were very, very, very angry at this person for pointing things out. And then I was like, oh yeah. Yeah, I got it on Amazon though. So I'm not perfect. I didn't even put it in my cart. I buy it now. Well, I agree, change the system, right? But if the system is not changed, and the system is not The system is the system right now. So we need to address we can address stuff now and address stuff in the future, right? Prince is dead. All right. Yeah, believe me, I've thought about this a lot. And I would like to think, I would like to think that it doesn't say anything about my personality. That this is not a sublimated, projected wish. I get the same kind of feeling from some of the stories that I wrote when I was younger. A lot of white knight kind of stuff. A lot of like revenge stories. Right? Yeah. I didn't think very much. I still don't. Hey, it's indigo. Oh shit. Wait a minute. That just freaked out. Oh, great. I don't think I can fix this. How do I shrink you? No, I don't want to. Can I? Okay, there we go. Maybe? Did that fix it? No, just change the damn font. I can't grab the edge of it. There we go. Here we go. I'm sorry. I want to address what you're saying here, but first I want to... Don't disappear when I'm in the middle of blowing up. Look at that. Oh my God. Oh my God, it's adorable. I don't want to ask how long ago that was, because I'm imagining it was absolutely post turn of the century. Oh, I'm not. Oh, Jesus, this is not. Let me fix this. I wish it wouldn't. If I move something, I wish it wouldn't disappear when I'm moving it. I understand it has a timer. I don't think we should hate white male Americans. Not on principle, certainly. I do think there are a large number of white male Americans, and I include myself in that group, who deserve some higher, and it's probably time for us to take the back seat for a while, and be okay with it. But yeah, I understand this sentiment as well, Indigo. And whenever you have something like this, where there's a backlash, and then there's a growing backlash. Who would like to talk? Who wants to talk? Yeah, I know that was a little you. I mean, not literally yesterday, but yeah, in the grand scheme of things, it was basically yesterday. And basically tomorrow, you will be dead. But I'll go first. This is the deal I'm making with all of you. Or almost all of you. Like, statistically speaking, probably not all of you. But I'm making this deal with most of you right now. Death is scary. And I'm afraid of it. And I'm sure a lot of you, whether you admit it or not, are afraid of it. But the deal I'm making with you is I will go first. If that makes you feel any better. I'll go first. If there's a way for me to report back to let you know how it is, I will do that. And then if there's not a way, then you'll know there's no way. And that everything is just non-existent, and that's cool too. Well, this is gallows humor. This is how we have, since time immemorial, dealt with these questions and these insurmountable facts about life, right? Who wants to talk? Especially about dying. If you want to talk about dying, let's do that. I don't mean to be glib about it. I don't want to sound glib. I definitely sound glib. One thing's for sure, before you die, you're going to want to check out Ridge wallets. When's the last time you pulled into Chick-fil-A and ordered an 18-piece nuggets? Are they allowed to call them nuggets? When's the last time that you pulled into Chick-fil-A and ordered a generic nugget, 18-piece generic nugget meal, pulled out your old-fashioned billfold wallet, got the corners all gross, and there's probably like stuff living in there and little bits of dirt and maybe food, and you're digging through your cash, you're digging through your credit cards, can't find the right one. It's because wallets make it too easy to carry stuff. Well, you could put stuff in a wallet. Why not get a wallet that makes it really hard to put stuff into? And therefore, when you try to put stuff into this wallet, you'll be discouraged. You'll be dissuaded from carrying much with you because you won't want to deal with the hassle of the design of this wallet, which makes it very difficult to carry stuff, which means you have to be very deliberate about what you put in there. So you can only carry about half a dozen cards. That includes your driver's license. That includes your insurance card, whatever it is you carry with you. It doesn't discriminate as far as the kind of cards that you have to carry a certain amount, which means maybe you get 3 credit cards in there. Why do you need, here's a question, why do you need more than 3 credit cards? Maybe someone gave you a gift card. Should you be carrying around with you for a year? Ridge Wallet will encourage you to spend that gift card because you won't want to be carrying it around in that thing. So yeah, pick up a Ridge Wallet. Use the code FOSALE. I don't know if that's even a thing anymore. I doubt that it is. And you'll never want to carry anything with you. Hey, guess what? I just realized I don't have the logo up. Well, that's not the logo. This is going well. That's not the logo. What the fuck? My God. By the way, I recommended this book already. I'm still recommending it as I look through stuff here. And just in case you all forgot, here is Jeff Bezos with his brother and a teenager, and they all went into space using, in part, the money that I spent purchasing this book. So feel free to discuss the pros and cons of capitalism and what it enables. I can't find the logo. I've got so much crap here. Hey, remember when I was playing this? Remember when Ricky Schroeder was a cute kid? We've got somebody in the green room that you all know and love. I don't know what we're going to talk about, but let's talk about something. Yeah, you know them and you love them. And if you don't, So if you don't know them, you will now. And if you don't love them, well, I guess that's valid, right? You can't be forced to love everybody. Voice quills. Voice quills.
Hello, hello.
Oh my gosh, look at this.
I'm going to do my usual and swap.
Guess what though? You are coming in stereo.
What? Oh my god, I already went and changed it back and forth, so hopefully it's still coming through in stereo?
Yes, right out of the gate, and it stayed that way.
Alright. Good shit.
So that's pretty impressive. It also,
Yeah.
like actually I should have asked this before. The link that you click to kind of dial in here, it's never changed. Like it's been the same link forever.
Yeah, I went on to Gmail and scrolled up to the thing and then clicked the same link and I'm here now. So
That's weird. I assumed it would expire, or that actually what I
yeah, I kind of
assumed.
the same.
Yeah, I assumed that at first I assumed that every time I started a new stream, it would create a new link. But apparently it just makes the one link, and that's what I'm stuck with forever. How are you doing?
Yeah, not too bad. I'm currently on my holidays. I booked a week off from work, so um, it's all been good. I did plan a long weekend getaway to the city. However, both my parents that I live with have caught COVID, so I am grounded and not going
Oh
anywhere.
no.
So should be fine. But yeah, we're all double vaccinated, so
Including your parents?
yeah, they got vaccinated way before me because they're like 50 and 70. So, yeah, they got vaccinated way before me. But they tested positive. I just had my test today, so I should be finding out relatively soon-ish, in the next like 12 hours or so or something.
Did you get the rapid test results, or
We all did the lateral flow. Is that what it's called? The one you do at home, where it's like the quick brush to the back of your throat and up your nose. And
I
then
did? I
today,
think yeah, it's like an antigen or something. I don't know. There's an
yeah,
antigen and a PCR. I don't know
yeah.
exactly.
So like, yeah, we did the antigen ones, and it all came back negative. But then we've all now went and got the PCR ones, and my mom and dad and my brother have come back positive. I'm still not sure on mine yet. I feel fine, but I don't know if that's like just the vaccine working or if like I just don't have it yet.
I wonder
So
why yours is taking longer to come back.
I just did mine today.
Oh,
So
I'm
they
sorry.
did
Okay, I
theirs
thought y'all
like
did it
the
at the same
day
time.
before. We would have done it all on the same day, but I slept for a long time, so I missed the window to book for the same day. So yeah.
Did you sleep? You didn't. Were you sleeping because you were fatigued, or were you just sleeping because you were?
Um, I was sleeping because I'd been up quite late talking to people. So yeah, it wasn't like I was feeling ill and tired. I was just up late. So
Can I ask you? I'm not sure if it's the lighting or if I'm just an idiot. Have you done something to your hair?
um, I might just be the lighting. I did have it lightened like 10 weeks ago or
Okay, yeah, because
something.
that's what
It might
I'm.
just be the light.
That's what I'm seeing as like what looks like balayage or something like that. I don't know exactly what the
Yeah, I
term
don't
is.
know.
It looks good,
Thank you. I'm
but
I'm hoping to eventually turn it full white and see how that looks.
when you say white, you mean like white, white? Like
Yeah, like a silvery white because I'm naturally like, quite dark haired, and then I've dyed it purple a few times, and then I got it lightened recently, so it's a slightly blondish look in places. So
well, it looks good. I think what must have happened is maybe the lighting. Either I didn't notice because I'm very unobservant like that, or maybe the lighting was a little different, and so it didn't stick out quite as much. In fact, even now, I'm
maybe
not noticing it that much. When you turned your head one way, where I could see this part of your head, that's when it became very obvious. Yeah,
try to do it. Okay, there we go.
there, exactly. That's exactly right.
Yeah.
So death.
Yes, death.
What are your thoughts?
This is a conversation I've had, I guess, a couple of times. So I guess my main um thought on it is that it's the moment I like my brain shuts off and that's it. I'm gone. Me as a person ceases to exist, right?
Can I just interrupt you to say fuck you, Jerry?
Yes.
Go ahead.
God, I wish I found gray hair. Honestly, it'd be so much easier.
Well, yeah,
I want
actually,
that
that
full
would work
gray
well for
white.
you. But then it wouldn't be
Yeah.
a choice. Like this way, you have the choice to do
Yeah.
it.
But like, no, I'd love it still. But yeah.
When your hair turns gray or white naturally, it's not just a color change, though. It's a texture change as well. You probably know that already, but just in case you didn't, that was something that kind of caught me by surprise. It was like, oh, damn, man. My hair's not going to just turn white and still like lay down. It's going to turn white and...
God,
But anyway,
my
I'm
hair's
sorry.
already hard enough to control.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I've always kind of assumed that the moment I like die, then for God's sake, Jerry, then that's it. Me as a coalescent being ceases to be. My mom's always thought like, oh, there must be something more and like reincarnation and that kind of thing. But like, I think what kind of almost goes against that a bit for me is whenever I've been near something dead, especially fish for some reason. And I think I mentioned this, was it during the Observer stream the other day? I think I remember saying that like being around dead things, they feel like not touching them feel, but just like when I look at them, they feel hollow. Does that make sense?
They feel what?
Hollow.
Hollow.
Yeah, like there's something that's meant to be there that isn't, and they're just sort of empty.
But how do you know that's not your natural, the evolutionary natural revulsion that we're supposed to feel towards death, right?
Yeah, it could be.
But so when you get a feeling of like when you see a dead thing, I'm hoping not too many dead bodies, but dead fish or whatever it is, right? That there's something missing that used to be there that is no longer there.
Yes.
More so than just a process that's occurring within the material that you're seeing. Actually, something is now gone. Or could it just be a process, I guess is what...
Maybe, yeah. Because, like, I think the one thing as well is when I'm near them, because, like, I think the one time that's really came into focus for me was parents were going to have, like, a garden party years ago, and one of my dad's friends like, oh, hey, I went and caught some fish. Here, you can have this, and you can cook it and all that for the party. And I didn't notice until I came downstairs and saw, like, a dead fish just sat in the kitchen sink staring at me. It just felt like... I knew it was dead, and I had that same kind of hollow feeling, but at the same time, I felt like if I got near it, it would move, like there was something there.
Well,
but it's like it's weird.
Yeah, fish are notorious for. Fish are notorious for looking dead even when they're alive, right? So that's part of the problem. Is it might look dead. You might go fishing and have a cooler full of fish, and you think that they're all dead. And maybe you even gutted one and you think it's dead, and then all of a sudden it flops around a bit. But then there's also that kind of stuff with like lizards' tails, and there's still some kind of ATP production going on that causes some kind of muscle contraction or something like that. But fish are creepy in general. I don't feel that way because I was born and raised in Miami, Florida. I don't know if you're aware of that, and so a lot of fish in my youth went fishing like all the time. Like that was the thing to do every weekend, or even weeknights, like going to the canal and going fishing, or on the weekends going sort of deep sea fishing, or just like snapper fishing in the mangroves or whatever. So my young life, the smell of fish, of freshly killed ocean fish, not lake fish, right? Because there's a very different smell, right? That's something that I'm very, it's almost nostalgia, right? Like and since moving, and I've said this a bunch of times, and I don't mean to change, we're discussing death, not the availability of fresh fish outside of particular coastal towns. But I've had tons of trouble finding like good fresh fish since I've left Miami, whereas in Miami you could walk into pretty much anywhere on like 8th Street or any sort of Cuban fish place, and get fresh fish tacos for like $5 or something. But so you have you felt this before for things other than fish?
Yeah, I guess like I think the closest I've come to it with a person was God, it's been years and years. I actually kind of had like a not quite a flashback, but I remembered this like a couple nights ago. So when I was like 11 or 12, um, I was at a falconer's fair because I did falconry when I was a little kid. Um, and
Could you
on the
explain what that
last,
is for?
so it's basically like it's like you know what like I'm not sure what they call them in the US, but like there's different like fairs and stuff that go on in the UK, and they might have like an arena where there's someone who comes out with like hawks or falcons or owls,
Oh,
and they'll like fly them, and they wear like the the fancy glove, and they like have bits of meat on and that kind of thing.
yeah. I
So I
think
used to do that.
Renaissance fairs here is probably the only place you'll
Yeah,
run into that. I actually thought you said Faulkner, like William Faulkner, and I was like, "What? Oh, I didn't realize such a big deal over there." But okay, so a Falconer's Fair, got it. Okay.
yeah, yeah. Because I used to do. I for a time I was the youngest certified falconer in Britain. I did
Well,
like a
wait a
full
minute
like
though.
course.
Are you going to say this is about birds though?
No,
Okay, go
this is
ahead.
a
Go ahead. I'll let you
person.
finish.
Yeah,
Sorry.
yeah. So on like the last day, there was a meant to be this big like finishing event where a bunch of people would like there'd be like I can't remember if it was a helicopter or a plane, but they would like jump out and parachute down into the arena.
Oh, I
And
don't like where this is going.
yeah, I can't remember what order it was in, but one of the guys I remember watching, and he like came down, and I think the wind changed, and it brought him up like this, and then it like twisted down, and then he like I couldn't see it personally, but it was just behind like a set of tents, and there was this slam as he hit the ground, and but I think I can still feel like that shockwave through the ground and like in my bones almost. What made it worse was his girlfriend and two kids were stood next to us when it happened, and it was just
Wow.
like, oh fuck. And she was like, okay, we need to go, and like scurried away, and like took
How
the kids
young
off,
kids,
which
like kids? Like,
maybe like 7 was the oldest of the two, and then one was like
oh,
4 or
that's
5 or
horrible.
something. Yeah, and it just I remember it happening, and it took like an hour or something for an air ambulance to arrive because they just like I'm not sure they couldn't get clearance to land or what was going on, but it took them ages. And then I remember the next day on the news, like the first thing was, oh, a parachuter had died at like an event, and I was like, yeah, okay, that must be him. And it
Wow.
was just that kind of feeling that I'd seen that happen, and it was I think it only really hit me last night or the other night when I was thinking about it. I was like, shit, that I basically just watched a man die. Like that
Yeah.
is quite the thing. Like I didn't see it like happen with my own eyes, but I was witness to the event.
Yeah. I mean, I would imagine that's just as bad, right? Like, I mean, you
Mm.
missed. I mean, what would it have looked like? It probably wouldn't have looked like you're imagining it now, right? Like you're stuck with
Yeah.
your imagination of what that final moment was like. Um, oh, but did you feel? Are you saying that when that happened, that you kind of had some sort of sense that something had left? That kind
I
of 23
think
gram kind of thing. They say the soul weighs 23 grams or something like that? There was that movie
um,
about it, right? It was an unscientific test that was done back in the early 20th century, I think, where there was a person who would weigh who would weigh patients who were terminal, and then weigh them immediately after they died, and they somehow kind of concluded that the difference in all of these cases was always 23 grams or 24 grams, and then from that they concluded, oh, that's the soul. The soul weighs 24 grams. It's about that big, you know. Hangs out somewhere around there. I'm being glib, and I don't want to be glib. But did you get that kind of a sense?
I think at the time I didn't because I didn't quite grasp what was going on because I was like 11 or 12. And I was like, oh shit, like an accident's happened, and afterwards I was like, oh no, he died. That's awful. But now thinking back in it, I think they're that same kind of feeling, because I think I've only been to like, obviously I didn't go to his because I didn't know him, but like I've been to like maybe one or two funerals in my life, and whenever I've seen the body there, there's been that same feeling of something missing. There's just this like, there's almost this fear that if I go near them, that it'll like reemerge, I guess is the way to say it.
Do you
Like,
get
or it'll come back.
do you get a similar feeling from models and in-game cutscenes?
I wouldn't say so, no. When things like die in a game, it doesn't feel that way.
No, not from when they're dead. I'm talking about just like generally, because there is one of those theories about the uncanny valley is that the subconscious cues that cause us to be repelled by in-game models can possibly stem from the fact that in-game models behave more like dead bodies than like live bodies. They're missing all of the like really subtle things that you can see, like blood under the skin and like the subsurface scattering, where you can actually see processes going on, or the way they move is very stiff, almost kind of like Weekend at Bernie's right? So there was like that kind of theory that the uncanny valley stems from, hey, the more something looks like a human, the more obvious the delta is between what is really human and what this thing is. If I'm looking at a stick figure, I'm not in my head, I'm not like, oh, something's off about that stick figure. It doesn't look quite right? But if something almost looks human, you get that kind of natural kind of repulsion. And the theory, or one of the theories, is that's because they look more like dead bodies in a lot of ways than they do like living people. So you don't get that from
No, I wouldn't say so. No, I think it's almost like for that uncanny valley, it's almost an inverse, I would say. Like something's there that shouldn't be.
Oh, that's interesting.
So like, have you seen that video? You probably have, the one of like the like animatronic woman, and it's on like an older camera, and they're like singing, and they're like stood in a corner. I'm trying to remember what it's called.
No,
I'll see if I can find it.
Fucking horrifying.
But it's like, now the lighting will change because I went off the thing. Animatronic woman singing.
Now I can't tell if your hair, if you did anything to your hair.
Where is it? It's from like years and years and years ago. Uncanny Valley. If I search that, that'll thing it. Because like it's just this like, there it is, found it.
Well, your reaction at that was.
It's like it's like there's something there that shouldn't be, and I don't like it. I'll email it to you so you can thing it. So yeah.
Can I show it to everybody? Is it?
Yes, yeah. It's not like not safe for work or anything. It's just like this like animatronic woman singing in like a very robotic voice. But it's just, there's something off about it. It feels like something's there that shouldn't be. Where it's like when I look at something dead, it's the other way around. There's something that isn't there that should be. Looking at her, something's there that shouldn't be. There should be nothing there.
I don't think that I have ever. Oh my God, I'm just looking at the thumbnail, and
it's weird.
I'm worried about it, but let's give it a shot. I've never seen this.
Really? I think it's been around for ages and ages. It's got 27 million views.
Hold on a second. I don't know if you can hear this yet or not. I'm probably going to have to show my...
Yeah, I can't hear anything just yet.
Let's see if I... Hold on one second. I may lose us for a moment so we can see this thing. I don't know if people can hear it. I can see it, but I don't know if people can hear it or not. I feel fantastic. It's called. It seems like the sound is not coming through. But believe me, it is creepy as hell. Wow.
Yeah, that was just I couldn't hear it, but just oh God, it's like something's there that shouldn't be.
Yeah. So I don't know. I'm not sure how to describe it, right? Like that's an interesting perspective that you see it as there's more there that shouldn't be. But either way, it's a mismatch, right? Like we have our mental models of what we're supposed to see, and then we see something that approximates it in some ways and does not in other ways, whether it's something additional or something that's lacking, right? Either way, it's not lining up with what our expectations are. So can I take that to mean that you believe in some sort of an afterlife or something like that?
Thing is, I don't. That's why I think it's such a weird mismatch. Like I fully believe that like the moment someone dies and like they're fully gone, not just like their heart stopped beating type death, but like the full on, brain is shut off, they're gone. That's them. The only version of them that carries on is what other people remember of them and like the bits of them that get carried on through that.
Yeah.
Which is what makes it feel so weird when I have this whole like, oh, there's something not there that should be, there's something that is there that shouldn't be.
Without telling me how old you are, can you give me some idea? I'm just curious. If you don't want to, obviously, don't worry.
No, it's fine. I'd be fine saying my like direct age, but like I'd say I was just
make it. Can you make it a math problem?
Oh, let me think of a way that makes it awkward. Is it a prime? I think it's a prime number. Let me check. It's a prime number. How about if I could type properly?
I think 31 is a prime number, but there's no way you're 31.
No, indeed I am not 31. Let's see. Yeah, okay, it's a prime number between
27.
No, that's also not a prime number.
29.
It's less than 29.
Okay, so in that general region, right? Somewhere around there. Less than that, but somewhere around.
Yeah, less than 29, more than 19.
Got it.
As a prime number.
Gotcha. Okay. I don't even really know why. It's been made clear to me that it's not good to say ages. So I'm just trying to adhere by that, and yet totally subvert it at the same time, it seems like. So have you felt this way your whole life, do you think?
Yeah, I think so. Like, I've not really been around much. I think it's intensified more over time. Because I remember there was a time where, when I was little, maybe like 8, 9 years old or whatever, I could, like at the supermarket, there'd be like the fish like section, and they'd have like all the fresh fish there, and I could look, oh my god, that fish looks weird, and oh my god, that fish looks cool, and now I can't go past it without feeling creeped out. Like, so I think it's only intensified if it was there at all from when I was little.
Right. Yeah, this is, it's weird how those things kind of lodge in your brain when it's forming, and those kind of become the foundation for who you are. I mean, that when I think about the things that traumatized me as a child, and then I think about things that have happened to me later in life that are objectively worse, right? But I don't think about those things. Like I had a traumatic experience happen to me when I was 40 something, right? I don't really think about that thing. Right? I think about the thing that happened when I was, 11 or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Right? And maybe, I guess it speaks to the sort of inherent relativism of what I just said, like objectively a more traumatic thing, but that was wrong of me to say, because at 11, your pet dying can be the most traumatic. Well, at any age, your pet dying can be the most. At 11, your pet lizard dying, who you just found on the sidewalk 4 hours before, could be extremely traumatic, and maybe to have an equivalent sort of trauma when you're 40, it would have to be the dog that you've had for 7 years or something, right? Like, who knows?
Yeah.
Okay. But either way, I like how I managed to bring death into it, even the examples of trauma. Well, so you did first. I followed your lead, so I'm blaming you. So when we die, there is nothing, right? That's a
Yeah, I'd say so.
cool.
On that cheery note, yeah, there's nothing when you die. This is it. This is your one shot at life.
Yeah.
Make it count.
But see, what does that do? I am amazed by people who, when they come to this realization, they have that Dionysian reaction, or that the Stoic reaction of, this is all you get, so you better make the most of it, right? My reaction is more like, this is all you get, so better curl into a ball and not do anything.
I guess I'm kind of between those two things. There's a lot of stuff like, yeah, I could just go out and do this thing and do that. And like, if I die, fuck it, it doesn't matter. I'm going to be dead anyway, and nothing's going to happen after that. But at the same time, like, oh my God, everything's terrifying. Why don't I just stay in bed?
There was, I remember hearing, Ricky Gervais likes to talk a lot about being an atheist and the fact that there's no life after death and all that kind of stuff. Ricky Gervais, you know who Ricky Gervais is, right? That's
Yeah.
okay. I just want to be sure that he's not like a generational thing.
No, I know of him.
Yeah, he's a very sort of vocal atheist and a very prescriptively vocal atheist about like what people should believe. He has no problem like being very sort of pompous about what people should believe and quoting, like he gets attributed to that quote. There's a quote that's something like, you believe in God? Okay, well, I don't believe in God. There are 2,000 gods that you don't believe in. I just don't believe in one more God than you do, right?
Yes, that one.
But that's been around for forever, right? That's not a Ricky Gervais quote. He just kind of grabbed that and started using it. And now for some reason I see it attributed to him all the time. But he, at one point I remember listening to one of his earlier podcasts that he was doing or something like that, where he said if he could have a wish, what he would want is to die in his sleep with absolutely no warning, right? Like, so he wouldn't want to experience ill health. He wouldn't want to experience the premonitions and like the kind of decline that you're like, oh God, I'm going down this hill where the end state is death. I just want to go to sleep one night and just pass in my sleep and not be aware of it beforehand, right? And I remember thinking like, oh yeah, that'd be pretty good. And then I thought about it for a little while and be like, no, that would be fucking a nightmare because I would never go to sleep. Like I would never want to go to sleep because I would be like, literally, like I know this is going to happen in my sleep. If I can just not sleep, I know that it's not going to happen. And I would just end up staying up as much as I possibly could, which would probably just make it happen sooner, right? Because I would be very unhealthy and my circadian rhythms would be out of whack. And it would just suck.
Yeah, because like I think as well, even though I don't think there's an afterlife, I don't want to know the exact time and date and all that because that leads to a whole can of worms about like if you know when and how you'll die, then you'll change what you do.
This is the curse of the Cyclops. Right?
Yeah, it's you change what you do, so then how your reason we're gonna die either doesn't count or it happens at the same time and date but a different method and all that kind of thing.
There's that Rick and Morty episode where Morty is looking into that crystal and constantly living like this crystal that predicts the future. And he's just constantly doing what he needs to do in order to fulfill this potential future, right? Becoming sort of entrapped by this self-fulfilling prophecy of, oh, I need to reach this state. And then, of course, the Cyclops, who's like, I want to see my own future. And they're like, okay, yeah. And like all gods back then, they were incredibly spiteful. So they were like, yeah, we'll let you see the future. But the only future we're going to let you see is the day that you die.
Yeah.
And you had to give up an eye for it too. So, yeah, this is I don't want to know, like, I want to know enough to be able to get my affairs in order, right? Like, I want to know.
Exactly.
Yeah, I don't want it to be like, oh no, what happens to all my shit? you know, and I freely admit, like, I have not made a living will. I should. I should have a long time ago. Everybody, if you're over the age of 40 and you don't have a living will, you probably should. But I'm literally like, I'm horrified by the notion of making a living will. And it's like one of those things, like, I didn't want to get married. I didn't want to have kids because those are acknowledgments of time passing, etc. Right? Life is just scary. It's fucking scary. But yeah, I'm sticking by. I think I can safely, at least from a statistical standpoint, I can stand by the promise to go first. So if that makes you feel any better.
I think the one thing that I think would completely change my perspective on it all would be if there was fully confirmed, like, undismissible contact with aliens. Because I think then, yeah, I know that sounds like a huge, like, jump off from, like, death to aliens, but I think the human experience is so used to being focused on just the life we live that that full confirmation that there is more out there, I think would fully set in a different perspective on the whole thing.
How would that be different, do you think, than discovering that there is life at the bottom of the Marianas Trench, or discovering that there was life in the Americas, right? Or like all these things that widened our perspective, right? But then ultimately, like, we just normalized that, right? And it became like, okay, for a while it was like, wow, this is pretty amazing. And even like when you're a kid, you think adults are basically infallible, at least for some kids, right? Or doctors know everything, or, you know, whatever it is. And then as you become an adult, you're like, these people are as clueless as I am, right? Like, they don't know.
Yeah.
They're acting
Everyone's
like they
making it
know
up.
more, right? And then maybe they do know more, but they don't know so much more that they become deified, right? They're just trained better in this particular area. So I wonder if, like, I mean, that would be fantastic if we discovered aliens. But then I think my cynical side would very quickly kind of come into play and just be like, yeah, they're just like us, but they're, 10,000 years in the future, right? Like, they still, is there, now I guess maybe if, like, they didn't have a cycle of life and death like we do, because everything we have, like, we have day and night cycles, we have seasonal cycles, we have life cycles, like everything for us is a cycle. Is that an essential component of all life, that sort of change? I have no idea, right? But if it's something that we identified as, like, as life, right, then I almost feel like if it's too different from us, we're not even going to realize that it's life, right? It would just be, we might observe it and think it's a physical phenomenon, or a non-biological phenomena, but maybe it's actually in some way biological, and maybe in some way there is a consciousness associated with it. We're just like ants in the afterbirth, to quote Francis Dollaride, I think it was, from Red Dragon. We have just no way of understanding things at that level. But if it's at a level that we can understand, then we can also, like, compartmentalize and quantify it, and then make fun of it almost, right? and kind of get back to where we were.
Yeah.
Especially, what if it came true that we stumbled upon aliens, or they came to us, or whatever it was, and it turns out, much like Prometheus, we are there. They were, universal Johnny Appleseeds going around and seeding life on all of these worlds, and we are one of their 100,000 children, planets that they've seeded. And then there would be that very sort of maternal, paternal thing going on with them. I don't know how I'd feel about that.
Yeah, I think on the one, I don't know, on the one hand, I would want to see all of our, I guess, our stellar family and brothers and sisters in the stars and all that. But on the other hand, I would be very curious. Well, if we only came about because life was seeded here, even if it was just pushing a comet to smash into the Earth at a certain point and that kickstarted the whole thing, what kickstarted those that then created us, and that creates that whole loop
Who's
on.
patient zero, right?
Yeah.
Like what, and can we even, is it even possible to figure out who patient zero is? And that's when you get to it's turtles all the way down kind of,
Yeah.
right?
But the whole Fermi paradox, and are we
Yeah.
early or are we late, or
And that to me is the most sort of compelling argument for interstellar life is, I remember reading, I think this was Isaac Asimov, who did some calculations about like, if we were visited at even half the rates, like because UFO sightings used to be a lot more common, 30 or 40 years ago, 50 years ago, they were a lot more common. And at that time, I remember Isaac Asimov doing he did some set of calculations that determined that if we were even being visited at the rate that, at half the rate that was being reported, that it would require more energy than exists in the known universe in order for that to actually happen. I don't remember exactly what it was. And to me, I was like, oh, that's kind of neat, but is that provable? I don't know if that's provable. But the whole idea of like, hey, the universe has been around for billions and billions of years. We've been around for a very tiny fraction of that time. It's possible there have been lots of other intelligent civilizations that have, their eyes have opened and their eyes have shut in the blink of a cosmic eye, right? And we're just never going to line up. And if we do line up, they're either going to be, reptilian, dinosaurian, or monad in their evolution, or they're going to be so far evolved. Either way, they're not going to be anything near to where we are in a way that we would be able to relate to them in any sort of, they're like 300 years ahead of us, right? Like that's very, very unlikely, right?
Yeah. It's like, have you read All Tomorrows?
Who wrote that?
Oh, I can't remember their name. It's like it's basically a story. I think they're like a paleontologist and a biologist and a scientist in general, and they wrote this potential future of humanity where humanity, like we create like Mars Americans, where like there's over hundreds of years there's like a slight difference that builds, and people who are born on Earth and people who are born on Mars, and then there's an interplanetary war, and then once peace is made and billions have died, they come together and make the Starmen, and it's like a genetic fusion of the two that are like super intelligent and super healthy and all this, and they start spreading out among the stars. But after they spread out, an alien race called the Q come along and effectively wipe out / modify humanity wherever they go. So they create a species of humans on one planet that are like antelopes that have perfect memories, and they've got the bodies of antelopes. So the best thing they can do is sing all the things they remember.
No opposable
There's some
thumbs.
that are more predatory. Yeah, that kind of thing. And it is a haunting story because as you go through it, it goes through these like roller coaster of like hope and despair of all these different fates of humanity.
I love that.
Like let me see if I can find the link because you can read it online for free.
It sounds like a 60s kind of sci-fi novel. I don't know if it's that old or if it's like a Robert Heinlein kind of. It sounds like something like similar to the sci-fi that I read when I was younger, right?
It's by Nemo Ramjet, and it's from I think the 90s.
Okay, yeah, I was already out of my sci-fi reading days by then, except maybe Philip K. Dick I was still reading a bit of.
Yeah, there we go. I'll also email this along to you because it's so worth a read. It is like it maybe takes maybe an hour to read, I would say.
That sounds great. That's perfect for me, right?
It's like it's concise and it has a very poignant ending. It's
called All Tomorrows. I'm sorry, people are asking.
Yes, All Tomorrows.
I'm guessing that I don't know where All Tomorrow's Parties came from, or if that came from All Tomorrow's Parties, or if All Tomorrow's Parties came from that, or maybe there's no connection at all, or maybe they have a common ancestor. But that sounds fascinating. I will check it out always. we have somebody else in the green room I wanted to get to, if that's good with you, unless there's some.
Yes.
Did we
100%.
cover? So basically, you hate fish.
I hate fish.
You feel like when something dies, you feel like there is something that somehow left, but you have trouble reconciling that with your, with. Are you an atheist? I'm not sure, actually.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm an atheist, yeah.
Okay. So yeah, I can't help you. Not that you thought I could.
I
But
hate fish. Things that are dead are missing something, but there's some things that look like they've got something that they shouldn't. And read all tomorrow's.
I am going to read all tomorrow's. Yeah, I appreciate that. I've often felt that, like, when I was reading sci-fi, when I went through a period of my life when I was reading a lot of sci-fi, I had a lot of hope for the world, right? Like about the world, maybe. And even some of these sci-fi stories were very pessimistic, but a lot of them were predicated on the fact that humanity accomplished these amazing things, right? And I feel like I've lost that, and I wish that I could get it back. So, and I think that's maybe why, like, some authors like Philip K. Dick still stuck around, because he was just a nutso, pessimist, cynical. I mean, he was insane, right, from the drugs that he took, right? So anyway, I appreciate that. I will definitely look it up, and I hope that I can recapture some of that sort of childlike fascination with the world, Oh man, I remember I used to like go in my backyard and do that stupid thing where you're just staring at the stars, right? And you could do that for hours and just let your mind drift. And
I still remember when there was one clip. This is the last thing I'd say. Don't worry, promise. There was one thing I remember seeing, and it was, I think it was Neil deGrasse Tyson talking about how there was one theory about how life life originally started on Mars at some point, possibly. And then there's the chance that a meteor or asteroid slammed into it and a chunk of it flew off and landed on the Earth.
Right.
I remember hearing that as I was looking out at the stars, and it filled me with such a sense of like awe and wonder that I wish I could like recoalesce, because
bottle that.
I was like near in tears. Yeah.
I think they did. It's called heroin, though. You got it. That's the problem. You can get that feeling back. It's just very risky. All right. Thank you so much, Voice Quill. It's always wonderful talking to you. I appreciate what you contribute all the time. And please, if there's anybody here who has not visited Voice Quill's channel, definitely do it. You put up a bunch recently.
Yeah, I didn't put anything up today, but I should put something up tomorrow.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate them, and I definitely watch them when I see them in the Discord. So,
thank you.
Okay, we'll talk soon.
Enjoy the soup of the night.
That was great. All right, talk to you later.
All right, see ya.
Okay, so we have someone in the green room who this person I gladly make the exception. I like people to be on camera just because, I feel like if I'm talking to somebody, it's nice to see that person react and then me react to them, et cetera, et cetera. But this person I'm always happy to make an exception for, because I love what they bring to the table, and I think you all do too. So let me welcome Grace from Grace's Grove. Grace.
Hi, Scott.
You can hear me okay?
I can. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, let me put a little, no, let's get rid of that. This joke is old already. Grace and all.
Yeah.
So is it one of those little webcam doors?
It's a piece of black cardboard.
Oh, okay.
No, well, it's like my jury-rigged webcam door.
Is that an upgrade? I mean, I guess it looks better. It's much cleaner looking. Let's see if I can.
Well, yeah, it looks better, right? Because last time it was sort of this weird, like, brown yellow color, and now it's like a nice black color, and it looks a bit more professional.
Well, I just took you off, so we can still hear you now, but I just went ahead and filled the screen with me visually, but we can hear you.
Perfect.
If someone could just okay, I'm not seeing comments that say we cannot hear, and it looks like your levels are coming through good.
Okay.
Maybe a tad.
Excellent. Yeah, because
maybe a tad soft. Is there something you can turn up just a little
better?
bit? Try it once more.
I'm using my Is this better?
I think that's fine. Yeah, I think that's fine.
Is that better?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I'll hold the microphone closer to my mouth.
That always works.
It's my low tech solution.
Yeah, we have not talked in a while.
I know. I've been immersed in work and life, and I've barely been able to make it to the live streams. So I'm really happy to be here tonight. I got off work at a normal time, and my day went pretty well today. So
that is great. Are you still, without saying where you are you still in the same place that you were?
I am, yes, very happily so.
So are you? Okay, well, I don't want to. Okay, I'll move on.
Don't dox me.
Yeah. So yeah, how is your channel doing? Or is everything still in? You gotta forgive me because I don't listen to much ASMR.
No, it's fine. I'm also behind on all of my friends' channels. So I unfortunately my life kind of imploded. Work got really crazy, and I've just been dealing with a lot. So I haven't had a lot of time for content creation, which is, it's really unfortunate because having a creative outlet is a way to, kind of get that work-life balance back and detach from the stresses in your life. And I just haven't been able to make time for it recently. So I'm hoping, fingers crossed, in the next few weeks, things are going to calm down a bit and I can get back into the studio.
That would be great. But your channel still exists, just you haven't been.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think I posted a video like 2 or 3 weeks ago on YouTube.
And the channel is Grace's Grove, for those of you who don't know. I think most people do know. But that's the actual name of the channel too, right? If they just search Grace's Grove, that's what
technically I'm Grace's Grove Audio now. I did change it about a year ago. But I think on YouTube it still comes up under Grace's Grove with my custom URL.
Probably. Yeah.
But if you search Grace's Grove or Grace's Grove Audio, it'll come up. It should come up.
So Kai is saying you have a lovely voice.
Oh,
and
thank you, Kai.
Never heard you before.
Oh.
Well, then, yeah, you should definitely check out Grace's channel. Now subbed. There you go.
Excellent.
That was quick. So I don't want to pry too much into your life or anything like that, Grace. But we're talking about death. What are your thoughts on death? What happens when you die, right?
Yeah, so I've kind of run the gamut. So a lot of people don't maybe know my backstory, my personal backstory. So I was raised in a very, very strict religious, fundamentalist kind of religion. And so from birth,
Scientology.
No. No. It was, well, I don't want to say because I don't want to offend anyone.
No, I know.
But
sorry.
yeah, but
bad joke.
it's a pretty well known conservative evangelical religion in the U.S. And from birth, I was given, I was told what that there was an afterlife, and this is exactly what it looked like, and this is exactly what I had to do to earn that afterlife. And if I didn't do everything exactly right, I was going to get a terrible afterlife instead of a wonderful afterlife. And in the particular religion that I was raised in, there was no in between, right? Catholicism has purgatory. That wasn't part of our belief structure.
No room for forgiveness?
No, it was all or nothing. All or nothing. And yeah, you could ask for forgiveness and it supposedly would be granted to you. But you could very easily, in the next moment, fall out of forgiveness and you would have to ask for it again and rededicate yourself. And, it was a continual striving for something that isn't possible for a human being. And, kind of in the middle of all that, and this is sort of off topic a little bit, but, as someone who now identifies as queer, it was not a great environment to grow up in. So, you know, um,
Did,
my attraction to men was encouraged, but my attraction to women or people of other genders was something that would, send me to the bad place. Um, and just a lot of other restrictions and a lot of misogyny, along with racism and sexism and homophobia, just a lot of really awful stuff.
it's you know what's
Um,
I mean
mhm.
that's terrible, obviously, but what's so weird about that is like what you're talking about really almost applies to every Western religion to differing degrees, right? It's
Mhm.
just it's a matter of degree, right? And so
Mhm.
Episcopalians, they still kind of have the same deal, but it's just not that severe, right? And it's
Right.
so bizarre to me
Mhm.
that that's the case, that you don't have. Why are there not major religions, Western religions at least, uh, that why are they all so uniform? I guess is
Well, I mean, really, what you're talking about is you're talking about different flavors of Christianity. So you're really talking about one religion, um, or at least they all have the, I guess
one source of
the
truth.
found, yeah, right, yeah, exactly, one source of truth, the kind of their same foundation, and then they've branched off in their extremisms or, different practices and whatnot.
Yeah, that makes sense. So I mean, that must have been incredibly difficult growing up in that kind of a situation. And I would
Yeah.
think, go ahead.
Go ahead. I was gonna say I was really lucky in the fact that even though I was surrounded by this and I was being taken to, church 3 times a week by my family, my immediate family, within our home, and we were raised differently. So it was really this strange juxtaposition and almost a hypocrisy, that made me question the religion even more. Because it's like we would go to church and we would hear one thing, and then we would come home and we were being taught something else. So, I wasn't raised to be a racist. I wasn't raised to be a homophobe. I wasn't raised in an environment where I was told that my options were limited as a woman. Um,
Was it more
so
for the
that was really
social?
strange.
What was it for the social status and the kind of the social network that comes with religion? Is that more why your family went? Did your family actually like believe all of this stuff except for they made exceptions, or
So,
were
mhm.
they doing this for other reasons?
Yeah, so my mom was really the one who was super religious, and she was raised that way. And she also was questioning and had a lot of issues with things that were being told to her, but she had been raised that those anytime you have questions or anytime you're, kind of poking at the holes in the theology, that's really the devil, trying to tempt you, trying to stray you from the path.
That's convenient.
Um, exactly, it's very convenient. And so, she had these questions and she had these issues, but she didn't know how to go about addressing them. And she just thought, well, this is what I know. This is what I've always known. This is what I was told is the right thing to do. I want to raise my children in the right environment. I want them to be the right kind of people. And so I'm just going to keep plowing ahead, and not really get my questions addressed. And eventually she was able to do that, and she actually doesn't practice anymore. And my mom's freaking amazing. I love her so much. And she's like the nicest, kindest person you'd ever want to meet. But it
Is that
took a
something she
really
came
long
to
time.
herself like that, or is that something that you helped with, or other people helped with, or is that just sort of a realization she slowly came to her on her own?
So I've definitely been a change agent within my own
Okay.
family, for sure. And my brother hasn't practiced that religion for a really long time, so he was also, I think it was just a combination of a lot of things, like her getting older and coming into her own and
Mm.
realizing, hey, I have a right to question these things. Like my concerns are valid and legitimate, and they deserve space. And I don't have to be a doormat for other people. I don't have to just take it. Um, so I think that comes as you get older and life kind of hits you over the head a few times, and
Yeah.
you have to kind of fight back and find your feet, find your voice. So it's been really cool to see her transformation. Um, but my dad, he never believed. He was raised in a completely different environment, and he just went to placate her because she wanted to do it, and he didn't really see any harm in it. And he thought, well, she's religious, I'm really not, so I'll just let her raise the children how she wants. And then, actually, very relevant to this topic, my father died very young. He died when he was 40.
Wow.
And that was my really first intimate experience with death, specifically because we watched him die for a few months in our house. So
Oh
they had done
man.
everything they could do for him at the hospital. He'd had all the surgeries that he could have, and they pretty much said, look, you can either stay here and die, or you can go home and die in your own bed. What do you want to do? And he said, I want to go home. So we brought him home, and we had 24-hour hospice care. So we had nurses, a nurse that was there 24 hours a day because he had a feeding tube. He was hooked up to a lot of different machines. By the end, he couldn't eat on his own. He couldn't stand. He was 6'6", and by the time he died, he was like a skeleton. He was so
Wow.
thin.
Wow.
He had cancer. And so I was 9 when this all started, and I turned 10 like 2 months before he died. So I was very young. And I basically every day we would get up, and I'd come out of my bedroom and I'd walk down the hallway, and there he would be in his hospital bed, dying, getting a little bit worse every day. At one point, my mom pulled us out of school so we could all be together and spend more time together. And it also became an issue where we barely left the house, and if we did, it was this huge ordeal ritual where we had to say goodbye to him and tell him we loved him and give him hugs and
Just
kisses,
in case.
because if we came back from the grocery store, he might not be there when we got back.
Can I ask you
Um,
like a terrible
yeah.
question, Grace?
Please, yes, go ahead.
I'm I'm curious, and I'm not invalidating anything that you
Hmm.
felt when he passed. And both our fathers passed relatively. I was 13 when my father passed, so
Oh
we're
gosh.
both kind of at a yours is worse, right? Like that's a worse age, obviously because it's younger. But I guess I'm just wondering, was there any part of you that felt like relief at all after he died,
Yes.
and then
and
guilty
and
for
and
feeling
I
that?
don't mind talking about all of this because I've worked a lot of this out in therapy a long time ago. Not that I'm trying to make light of it, but it's a lot easier for me to talk about now and be a little objective about. And yeah, funny enough, I'll tell you the story of the moment he died. Um, so my brother and I were in my parents' bedroom watching their little black and white TV in their bedroom. There was a show that we really liked to watch every week. My mom had made us popcorn, and we were all, we were sitting in there, and we ran out of popcorn. So a commercial came on, because for those younger people in the audience, when the commercial came on, you could fast forward through it.
Can you say what show it was?
V. Do
Oh
you remember
yeah,
that show?
yeah, oh yeah.
Yeah. Um, so we were watching V, and I we my brother wanted more popcorn, so I came out to get more popcorn. Well, my mom and the nurse were standing over my dad's bed, and you have to remember at this point it had been a few months, probably like 3 or 4 months. So, you know, my father, like slowly dying in the background of our life, had kind of become the background of our life. It wasn't the focal point anymore, right? So the fact that they were like hovering over his bed didn't ring any alarm
Uh,
bells with me. So I walked up to my mom and I, was like, "Hey, mom," and she didn't answer, didn't turn around. So, typical kid, right? Because I was still a kid. I'm like, "Mom, mom, mom." I start yanking on her shirt, "Mom." And all of a sudden she whirls around and she gets right in my face and she screams at the top of her lungs, "Your father is dead!"
wow.
Yeah.
Yikes.
And, of course, the nurse, is like trying to grab her and, pull her back, and she's telling me to go back in the bedroom. And I just stand there for a minute, and my first reaction was one of joy. So, for a split second, oh, thank God it's over, you
Yeah.
know? And to add a little bit more extra icky context to this, the night before, my mom had taken my brother and I in her bedroom. She had forced us to get down on our knees, and she forced us to pray that my dad would die because she wanted him to be released from his pain. She wanted it to be over. There was nothing good that was ever going to come of him lingering longer, right? There was no hope in this situation. And in our religion, you know, in her mind, she was sending him on to something 1,000 times better, and we would meet him there eventually at some point,
Hmm.
right? Um, so she forced us to pray for him to die the night before. And my brother was 2.5 years younger than me, so he was completely hysterical, beside himself.
So he was
Just,
drawing that line directly. Like
oh,
we
yeah, just,
prayed for him to die
yep,
and he just died.
right. So,
Why did you make me do that? Like,
mhm.
yeah.
Yeah, so, my brother still doesn't know, so let's skip to, to the back to the scene with my mom, right? And, I just stand there for a minute, and then I like bolt like a gazelle back to the bedroom. And to the day I die, I will never forgive myself for this. I've apologized to my brother so many times. He doesn't even remember it. He's so traumatized by all this. He doesn't remember anything about this time period. Um, but I ran back in the bedroom and I said, "Max." Oh,
Oh,
I said, "Hey, brother."
sorry.
Sorry. I'm going to dox myself. um, I said, "Brother, Dad's dead." That was how he found out my dad died. 7.5 years old. And of course, he's like, just sitting there, like, immediately went into shock.
There's no
And then,
good
of
way to
course,
hear that.
right,
There's
right,
no,
right. And of course, it finally hit me because, like everything caught up with me. It took a little bit. And then I was like, "Oh, fuck. What did I just do? And oh my God, what just happened? Oh my God, my dad just died. Oh my God." And of course, so both of us start crying hysterically, and then eventually my mom comes back. And, long story short, we kind of, the nurse comes and, we sort of all get back on the same page as a family. And we ended up, after the nurse removed the tubes and everything from my dad's body, we actually helped to prepare it before the funeral home got there. That felt really important to me
yeah.
for some reason. And I said, I want to help get him ready before they get here. So I remember that I brushed his hair, and my mom and the nurse got him in a clean pair of pajamas before we came back out. And then I brushed his hair, and I can't remember what my brother did. Um, we got his slippers on him. And then I distinctly remember the the morgue people getting there, or the funeral home, and I remember them putting him in the body bag, putting him on the gurney, wheeling him down the stairs. And of course, so appropriate, it was raining that night, and it was night by that time. And I remember running to my room and looking out the window because it faced the front of the house. And I watched them put him in the back of the hearse and drive away with him. And that was the last time that I saw him, because we didn't have a funeral. He was cremated, and his ashes were sent to another state to be buried with his parents. So that was my first very, very intimate experience with death. And as you can imagine from the story that I've managed to tell without crying, that, it had very, very long-lasting impact on me, on my relationships, on just every aspect of my life. That thank goodness for therapy, right? I encourage everybody to explore therapy.
Did your dad, did he want to die?
That's a good question. This is one of my great regrets. And I think anybody who's lost a parent really, really young probably has the same regret, that I never got to interact with my father as an adult. I never got to have adult conversations with him and ask him those type of questions or have that level of discussion with him. I remember the one time that I tried to come out and sit with him and talk with him when he was dying at our house. It was in the evening. I couldn't sleep. I just wanted to go out and talk to him and just spend some time with him. And I came out into the living room, and usually at night the male nurse would be there, and he really liked the male nurse coming, because I think that he had conversations with the male nurse like that, probably, that he couldn't have with my mom or with his children. And so, I came out just to sit with him and be with him, and he wouldn't let me. He made the nurse put me back in bed. He didn't want us around him. And the other memories that I have of my dad are a bit harsh. My mother tells me different stories, but the memories that I have that stand out to me of my interactions with him before he got sick and while he was sick, they're not great memories. So unfortunately, I wish I could answer that question, and I really don't know. I can empathize, I can try to put myself in that position. How would I feel if, I knew that there was nothing but more suffering and pain coming, and, basically you're just dying slow, right? And you're doing it in front of your family, you're traumatizing them. My answer would be yes, I would want to die in that situation. So I would imagine that he probably felt the same.
And I wonder, him not wanting to spend time with you when he's sick, or one-on-one time, probably he didn't want you to have many memories of him like that, yeah. Right? Mm-hmm. And also maybe he didn't want to be reminded of, what he was losing, right?
Right. Yeah.
But obviously speculation, but either way, horrible. That's and so formative, right? Like you said, right? I'm sure that what did that do, do you think, to your ideas of what death was or what it meant? And I can remember for me, right, immediately, when my dad died, it's sort of I was like, oh my God, my mom could die, right? That the safety net of two parents was gone, and then it was just sort of okay, what if my mom dies next week, right? And I remember having a period where I was going through being very attached to my mother, even though I was a preteen at that point, right? Because I was just sort of obsessed with this idea, okay, this is real now. I remember my reaction at first was there's got to be a way to undo this, right? There's got to sort of this irrational sort of, can we get a note from, the beings that be or whatever, and get this undone, right? And then once, after going through that, it was sort of oh shit, this could happen to anyone at any time, particularly my mom, because she's old, and she was probably 35 at the time. Or
right.
So I remember that fear, and that I had been sort of a morbid person prior to that, but definitely from that point on, my morbid thoughts kind of just went through the roof, right? I wonder if that was the same for you. I can't imagine it wasn't, but I wonder if that was your experience.
Yeah, it's interesting because my absolute obsession with Egyptology and mummies and Egypt all started after my dad got sick. And I remember I would always take all of my books with me to the hospital, and I would sit in the hallway and I would read all my books about mummies and, how they would prepare the bodies. And, just basically, I think getting comfortable with death right in my own kind of way because I knew that there probably wasn't going to be a good outcome to the situation. And then same thing that you said, that fear of being an orphan, of suddenly feeling like you are just one breath away from being an orphan and alone in the world. Yeah, I mean, I dealt with that for years, thinking, oh my gosh, if anything happens to my mom, like, that's it. And we had this whole like contingency plan as a family where my mom like laid out this whole thing for us like, okay, if I die, you're going to go live with your aunt, and your
Like a line of
uncle.
succession. Like
Oh yeah.
wow.
Yeah, and we talked about it like over and over and over again. So it was like really clear that even my mom like was freaked out about, she was also having that same kind of reaction like, oh my gosh, I'm the sole person responsible for these kids. I have to make sure that they're taken care of. And I think that you've talked about this in the past where, you're not only did you have this loss in your life, but your lifestyle completely changed.
Yeah.
And that we had the same thing. My dad died thinking that our house was going to be paid off by his life insurance. And come to find out, there was a little clause in there that said accidental death only. And his death was natural causes. So they didn't pay out, and the house was not paid off. And my mom was a
Holy crap.
housewife. Yeah, she hadn't worked in like 15 years. So, yeah, we managed to keep the house for like a year, because she had some life insurance money and she had, the Social Security for us and for her, but it wasn't enough. So we ended up actually moving across the country. We went from living in a really nice suburban house to living in a 2-bedroom condo. My mom didn't even have a bedroom. She slept on a fold-out bed in the living room. And it was like a total 180 for us.
The parallels
So
are
yeah.
uncanny. Like even the amount of time that you were able to stay in the house, identical to what happened with us. Like basically like the property taxes on the house that we were in, our house was paid off. We could not afford the property taxes.
Yeah.
And my mom had not worked in like 15 or 20 years, maybe 15 years, I guess. To me, it seemed like forever at that time, right? But she had trained to be a nurse, so she had to go back to get recertified to be a nurse. But even making a nurse's salary could not afford to just live in this house that we were in, just based on the property taxes. So within a year, we had to move as well, and schools changed, friends changed.
Exactly. Yeah.
It just
So
turned
you lose your whole entire support system,
Yeah.
right? So, at the time we were still going to church, so we lost our church family. I had been going to school with the same kids since kindergarten, and I had to switch schools in the middle of the school year. So we, lost all of our friends. We lost all of our family because we moved away from the family as well. And yeah, it was just, completely different part of the country, and yeah, so it was very, very traumatic, even more so than, it would normally have been. Um, yeah, so that was that's my death story, or I guess my formative death story, I should say. I've had a few deaths, more deaths in my life, friends, family, that have affected me through the years. As we all experience, that's what happens. People leave.
Yeah.
And, my religious and philosophical views of like afterlife and death have shifted dramatically. At this point in my life, I would call myself an atheist. I don't believe in any kind of afterlife. I really believe that, when you're gone, you're gone. But I did want to talk about or bring to everyone's attention a few different things. So the first thing is check your insurance policies
Yeah,
for
that's
small print.
I mean, that's a
You'd be
big thing, right?
surprised.
Like a
Yeah.
life insurance policy that only pays out for accidental death.
Yep.
I don't know if your dad had a hazardous job, right? But wow, that
Yeah.
and fucking life insurance, man.
Yeah.
So again, a similar thing happened with me as well, but it was like they didn't cover suicide, right? And that's fairly common
Yeah.
because they don't want people offering themselves to get life insurance money, right? So, but yeah, I would definitely agree with that. If you have a life insurance policy, make sure that it is actually going to pay out for the thing that will eventually end you.
Exactly. But there is a doctor, he's a British doctor. His name is Sam Parnia, or Parnia. I think I'm saying it right. It's Parnia. I don't know if you've heard of him, but he is like the leading doctor in critical care and resuscitation medicine. And he's the director of the AWARE study, which is awareness during resuscitation. And he's really one of the leading experts in death and near-death experiences. So he has a book. I haven't read it yet, but it's on my list to read. It's called Erasing Death. And if you Google him or if you look him up on YouTube, he has a lot of different interviews and talks about this subject. And it's really, really fascinating how long our body actually continues to function after death and how long potentially our consciousness may still be there, just not detectable to people on the outside. And so it's really interesting that most cultures have the tradition of leaving a body out for at least 3 days
Right.
before they do anything to it. And there may be an actual scientific and biological reason why. And so I would just think his research is just really fascinating. And it freaked me the fuck out.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I don't know if I
first-
want to read that. This sounding kind of serpent in the rainbowy.
Yeah, it really freaked me the fuck out when I first kind of stumbled across him and listened to him speak. But I just also find it super fascinating. And so if anybody's interested to jump down that rabbit hole, I would recommend checking him out.
What's the
but,
doctor's name
yeah.
again?
It's Sam Parnia. It's Parnia. Sam, Sam. And his book is called Erasing Death, but he also has like a ton of interviews, and just type his name into YouTube and a
Yeah,
bunch of stuff will pop up.
I see him right now. Yeah, but his basic premise is that consciousness exists in some form post-death, at least for some amount of time.
Yes, for much longer than they originally thought. And it's also interesting, they've been looking at the biological processes in the body, and there are actually genes and processes that switch on at death, including
That
some,
doesn't make sense.
yes, including some cancer genes. So they haven't figured out why yet or what the purpose is, but your body is very active after death, and there's still a lot going on at the cellular level. And so I just find it fascinating because, people have these stories of after-death experiences. They see the light, all this kind of stuff, and it really may just be your body and your consciousness is actually still active and operating, and you're potentially having like basically a death trip. And so I just find it really fascinating.
The final frontier. It would be interesting. Yeah, I mean, there've been all kinds of like possible explanations for what people see when they have near-death experiences. That's NDEs, with the scientific acronym, initialism. But yeah, like the sort of, well, it's mirroring your first, you see a light because that's what happened when you were born, or, the final firing of all these synapses as they burn out or lose their ability to produce, whatever it is. Like there's all these kinds of theories of like what it is that causes these experiences that people have when they're near death. But obviously, once you cross that threshold, I realize like there are cases where like people flatline for 3 minutes or whatever it is, and then they're brought back. But they didn't experience brain death, right? Or otherwise they wouldn't be able to be brought back. I do think it's very bizarre, especially like when you look at like some of the technology. Like, I remember even just like 20 years ago, the idea of like lowering someone's core body temperature to do any kind of traumatic surgery was kind of like a new thing. It was like, oh, have you heard this crazy thing that they're doing? They're lowering people's core body temperature so they can do this stuff. And now it's like they do it for everything, right? Because it's incredibly effective. It's slowing biological decay. It's essentially like hitting the bullet time button to let to give doctors more time to do what they need to do to make sure that they don't fuck shit up too much, right?
Well, it's also interesting because there's a huge difference between freezing and cooling, right? Cooling is what's effective. That's what has really interesting implications. Freezing damages cells.
Right.
So it's just the whole area of research is just really interesting.
But you're still an atheist.
Yes, I am. Yeah,
were you an atheist at the time of your dad's death? You may have said this, but
No, absolutely not. So, at that point, I can't remember. There comes a time, there's sort of like this age of decision that you have where, when you're around a certain age, that's when you're considered to be developed and mature enough to be able to make a decision on your own about whether you're going to, fully embrace this religion and follow it, or whether you're going to go to hell, because those are basically the two options, right?
You don't get one of those travel years to go out into the world and figure it out.
No Rumspringa.
Bummer.
I know, that would have been much more fun. And I'm trying to remember, because, oh my God, I can't remember. It was just such craziness. I don't think at that point I had made the decision yet. I think that it was after we were still living in that place, because I remember what church it was at when it happened. And of course it was like during this big revival. And, at the end of all of our church services, that was like when they would give the call, and they would basically sing the same song over and over and over again. And the pastor would subtly pressure people in the audience, verbally, and harangue them. And
you're talking about when the offering is being made? Is that?
No, the offering is before. So at the very end of every service, they would have a call to the altar. And it was like, if you want to accept, Jesus Christ into your heart and into your life, if you want to be saved, this is the time that you have to come forward and you have to make the pledge and you have to do the whole thing. And you have to do it publicly, because if you don't do it publicly, then it never really happened, right? If a bear shits in the woods and nobody sees it,
right.
Did it really? You know what I mean?
It sounds like NA or AA, right? It's very...
Yeah. So during revivals, that was, that whole part of the service was like the main point of the whole thing. So, it's really difficult because it's just a really awkward situation, especially if you're someone who you have a personality, or you've been trained to have a personality that you want to be a people pleaser, and you want to do the right thing, and you always want to follow the rules. And so, week after week after week after week after week, you're being harangued and harangued and harangued, and told that this is what you have to do if you want to be a good person and a good Christian, and you want to be a member of this church, and you want to stay in the fold, and you don't want to go to hell. This is what you have to do. You have to make this public profession. You have to make the walk up the aisle, and then
just like Cersei Lannister.
Exactly. Shame. So, during one of these revivals, I finally did it, because I was like, that's it. I can't take it anymore. I can't take the pressure anymore.
Oh, wow.
I'm just gonna it's like ripping a Band-Aid off. I'm just gonna do it. And so I did it, but I didn't really buy into it. I did it just so everybody would freaking leave me alone. Um, and my brother went up with me because he was, he was younger than me. And he was, just like so, he was so damaged at that point, and
Hmm.
he just wanted, he just always would do what I would do. So, we went up together. And of course, my mom lost her mind because she was so happy. And she's like, oh, both of my children are going to heaven now. Thank goodness. And then I remember that she took us to Dairy Queen for ice cream. And I got, do you remember?
Worth it.
So worth it. I was like, damn, can I do this next week too? So I got, the ice cream on a stick that was like the crunchy chocolate coating with
Oh yeah,
oh
like
yeah, that's
magic
the one I
shell
got.
kind of
I
thing.
went
Yeah.
I went freaking all out, man. I remember that.
That was the best when
But
you would get, because
yeah.
you'd get soft serve, but then you get
Mhm.
it dipped in that chocolate coating, and that would
Yep.
kind of prevent it from melting a little bit,
Mhm.
but also give you that
Exactly.
kind of extra texture.
Yes, it was so awesome. So yeah, pretty crazy. I completely forgot how we got off on this tangent.
It was a good tangent though.
It was.
It's pretty much all I do is go off on tangents. So if you're counting on me to bring you back to like a point,
We're
you're
in trouble.
yeah, you're gonna be disappointed. Well, I think the point was that you
Oh, you asked.
became
Oh, I remember. I remember. You asked me if I was an atheist
yeah.
when my dad died. Okay, I remember now. I'll bring us back to the source. So, no, I was not. I was very much still very enmeshed in that religion because I was still a kid. Like it wasn't really my choice, right? Or at least I was
But
never.
in your
It was never
heart, like, did you?
presented to me as a choice.
It's one thing to write. Like I was in a
Mm-hmm.
religious school for 10 years or 12 years, or the first 10 years of my education, and so I had to go to church every morning and then have mass like once a week. Um, but I like in your heart, did you feel it also, or were you
No,
kind of
no, I never did. And I mean, I don't know if I gave it a. Obviously, I don't think I really gave it a lot of critical thought. Like I never really sat down and went, I don't believe this, but I'm going to pretend that I do, just so my mom will leave me alone. Um, I never really thought that until that moment when I walked the aisle. I did the whole
oh,
public
that's so
profession
ironic.
thing. Yeah, and then I was like, I really don't believe this. And also you're told that, this is like the pivotal moment in your life. This is supposed to be the moment when you become holy, you become saved, you're going to heaven. Like, it's supposed to be like night and day, right? And I was like, I don't feel any different.
Yeah,
I'm like, this is a
that
crock.
wasn't a big deal.
Right, exactly. And so it really started me on the path to question everything.
That's so
And fun,
bizarre that moment
yeah.
was the trigger, right? Because
Hmm.
in everybody's minds, I mean, well, it was obvious they were all thinking like, at last,
Hmm.
Grace and the unnamed brother uh, have come into the fold, and your
Hmm.
brother, to be fair, is probably like
Hmm.
more genuinely into it. I'm guessing than you were, maybe because if he was aping you, he might have been aping what your
Hmm.
perceived beliefs were more than what you were kind of feeling inside. Unless I don't know
Right.
if you confided in him or not, right?
Hmm.
Um,
No, I never did. And it's kind of interesting now because he follows a pagan religion now, and at
heathen,
one point, hmm?
heathen.
I know, right? At one point in our lives, when we were both really away from the church, but I it took me a very long time to say out loud I'm an atheist and to like own it. For a long time I was just like, oh, I'm spiritual, or that wasn't really what I believed, but I was like, I can't say I'm an atheist. That's like the worst, dirty, worst, horrible, awful thing in the whole world. Because that's what I was
That's
raised to
even
believe.
worse than Lutheran, right?
Right, right. So, so it's really interesting because, you know, we all have so many different identities, and a lot of the some of the identities that some of us, you know are, um, are not acceptable. And we were raised to very much hate those things. And, you know, a lot of times we take that hatred and we internalize it and we hate ourselves for so long because of it.
Yeah.
You know, it happened to me with my queerness. It happened to me with my atheism. You know, it's so ugly and awful, and it's abuse. You know, when you're raised in these environments, it's so abusive. Anyway, I won't go off on that too much. I know people, there are a lot of people of different faiths here, and I don't want to completely offend anyone if I haven't already. But it's really interesting. There's a doctor that's doing a lot of work on recovering basically from these fundamentalist religions. Hold on, I'm going to walk over to my bookshelf and I'm going to get her book because I also want to recommend this book. She's done a lot of really great work. It's called Leaving the Fold. And her name is Marlene Winell, Winell. And Marlene is Marlene. She also has some of her lectures are on YouTube. But essentially, it's for people who have left their religions for whatever reason. And it's about the grief that comes from that, right? Because we lose our support structures. We lose our common touch points with the people in our lives, our family, our friends. Sometimes
and that's by design, right? That is,
exactly.
These hooks are created to, they don't want you to leave, so they're going to create as many of those hooks as they can to keep you.
Yeah. So there's this grief and there's this like internalization of this hatred, and there's so many things that go on when you leave a religion, especially a really fundamentalist religion. And nobody talks about that. Nobody tells you to expect that. So you don't know if it's normal or not. You don't know how to deal with it. You know, and yeah, anyway, I would recommend her too. And now we're totally off on another subject.
Well, it's weird because like my recollection of religion was different than yours, right? It was Episcopalian, so it was basically like Christian light, right? Like it was
exactly.
very, and the prevailing knowledge that I got, or the prevailing understanding I even had from the parents was that, yeah, we go to church. Do you believe in God? Maybe. You know, do you believe in heaven? Heaven? Well, I don't know, but heaven's a little, really? Like a place, you're going to be like, you're going to have wings and have a, I don't know about that, but hurry up and get your jacket and tie on because we're going to be late for mass, right? Which to me, that's like a really bizarre, to me, that's almost more bizarre than fundamentalism because it's sort of like, all right, so you're like openly acknowledging that you don't really take any of this literally. So why are you doing it? Oh, well, we're doing it because, you know, to keep up with the Joneses, essentially, right?
Right.
So it's strange, and I think that's probably a middle class. Well, I don't know. I don't think it's just a middle class phenomenon. I think is it even uniquely American? I don't know. I haven't thought about it enough. I don't want to say anything stupid. Oh, I don't want to say anything more stupid. But I wonder, like, it seemed like it was just like this unspoken thing, even among the clergy, right? It was even like, okay, yeah, just kind of, right. The communion wine disappeared again this weekend, but it's fine. Everything's fine. Don't worry about it.
It's like a wink, wink, nod, nod. We all know.
Like everybody's in on it.
To keep up the pageant.
Right. Yes, exactly. The pageantry is what's important. The community is what's important. The offerings are what's important. The tax exemption is what's important. All kinds of stuff. So I almost find like it at least a little more, there's a little more integrity, it seems like, if you are one of those people who truly believes, from my point of view, right, like I don't know what it really says about your, or extremely religious at least, but I feel like it's hard for me to reconcile the traditional ideas of any fundamental religion with, say, an open questioning mindset. to some extent, I have to be like, well, at least these people have the courage of their convictions. They are going all out. Whereas I was raised among a bunch of heathens masquerading as the good people, right, or whatever it was.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, like walking this idea of like not believing in God, I mean, it kind of was, like you said, it was like a wink and a nudge. It was not a big deal. It was just sort of like I definitely don't believe what's going on here. And it kept going on every time, like every week or every month or something, there'd be something else. I'd be like, wait a minute, the Holy Spirit is what? You're separated into three, what? The Trinity is
Right.
what is going on? Like, this doesn't make sense with what you said last time, right? Like, God is all forgiving, but, like all the things that popped up as like these sort of logical inconsistencies, at least to someone who thinks like a lot of people think, right? Like not taking anything on faith. And I think a lot of that also came from when, the experience with death that I had at that age was very much a sort of, I was morbid before that and I was cynical before that, but man, I became much more morbid and much more cynical after that. And on top of that, I was arrogant and, entitled, and the world encouraged that in me, right? It was sort of like you act like you know everything. That's great. Like people, my friends called me the professor, and it was not because I knew any more than anybody did. It was literally just like an affectation that I was just like, I behaved as if I knew more. But inside I was always like, they better not call me on this or I'm going to be screwed. So yeah, it's interesting the parallels that our lives have had. I'm sure like tons and tons of people have had similar experiences, whether it's, a mother or a father or a sibling or whatever it is, like an early exposure to death at that kind of intimate level, especially yours, like particularly intimate because you were living there with it, like at your door for whatever that length of time was. Like we were saying with voice calls, like the things that happened to you at that moment in your life are so formative that small things can seem big, but I wonder, does that work the other way around then? You were exposed to like this huge trauma at a young age, and does that then sort of give you a better perspective to deal with that sort of stuff later on once you get through it? Obviously, like there's this period where you're getting through it where it's really, really hard and really, really difficult. But when the next one comes, a decade later, are you better equipped to deal with it, or are you worse equipped? I don't know.
That's a good question. And, I hadn't really thought about that before. But I think what it left me with is the feeling, always walking around with this feeling that the other shoe is getting ready to drop. Like you never know what's going to happen. Somebody could be with you 1 minute and like, you turn around and they're gone.
And not just with death, like any
Yes.
situations. If something good happens to me, I'm like, okay, wait, this is going to end poorly. I know it's going to end poorly.
Yes,
How's it going to
yes.
end poorly?
Always. Yeah, you always have that sense of dread and that sense of, that things probably don't work out right. Like you're not going to get the happy ending.
So maybe it did fuck us up. Right.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's a struggle, right? And I mean, those are some of the things you have to kind of work through in therapy or however you can work through them. Get books, watch videos, whatever you can do, because it does really warp your sense of reality. It warps how you approach relationships, and like not just romantic relationships, but
Right.
any kind of relationship in your life. I think that it fucks with your attachment style. So if you were a secure attacher before this, you're probably not anymore.
Yeah.
And so I think that it affects you in so many ways, like seen and unseen. And another thing that it did for me is that, I was the oldest and my mom completely fell apart. So I took on the role of the adult. I was the head of the household. And I felt all of that responsibility and all of that burden to take care of my mom and my brother, to make sure that they were okay. My mom, kind of started treating me like a partner,
Yeah.
instead of a child. And there was a lot expected of me. And, that fucked me up in a lot of different ways. And, kids can be put in that situation for a myriad of reasons, not just because of a death. But, it's never a good thing. Um, so yeah, I mean, there was, obviously like the repercussions of that are still kind of echoing through my life today, many, many, many years later.
Well, Grace, I really appreciate you sharing that. I could, obviously it's painful, but, I appreciate the honesty and just sort of, I don't know what other people in chat like have sort of what their equivalents are, but I am sure that there are, whether people are willing to share that or not, right? There are things there that they can apply to their own lives, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Ultimately, whether this made us stronger people or weaker people, I don't know.
I think both. I think
yeah.
both.
Yeah, I think there are cases where I've been able to say, like, compare myself with someone else and be like, well, in this situation, it seems like I'm dealing with this better.
Mm-hmm.
But then at the same time, I'm also like avoiding any sort of like commitments in a way because I don't want the risks that those commitments entail, implicitly or explicitly. Like even having a child for me, which is a horrible fear because it was sort of like, well, what if I die? Right? I don't want that to happen to my kid, right? I don't want my kid to end up having to experience that kind of a horror, right? So it was something that I put off, which ironically, the longer you put it off, the more you're
likely.
increasing the odds that it's actually going to happen.
Right, self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
But yeah, I really appreciate you taking the time to talk about this. And
of course, I think it's a really important topic, and I think that we don't talk about it enough.
Yeah.
We're, especially as Americans, our default is supposed to be everything's fine, smile, always have a good front, never let them see you sweat, never show them your cracks so that people can, exploit them. And we really avoid these topics that should be a normal part of life. Like we should talk about sex, we should talk about death, we should talk about our feelings and if we're hurt or need help. We should talk about mental health. We should talk about our struggles in all of the different areas. And I just think that by having conversations like this and by being vulnerable, that, maybe we can encourage more conversation, or maybe somebody can hear something that resonates with them and, maybe they'll find a book to read or a video to watch that will help them on their journey. So, I just think that it's really important.
I think that's great. Hopefully that happened to somebody tonight. But bottom line is we're all still going to die, though. Just
That's true.
But yeah, I appreciate that outlook and I agree with it. Right, and the more we can talk about this, the more. I mean, at least for me, what it comes down to is not feeling alone. Right.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
And the more your experiences serve to isolate you from other people, or you feel like you're not understood, the worse off generally you are. Speaking in broad strokes, right?
Exactly.
So yeah, thank you so much for taking this time to talk. Grace,
Thanks for having me on and letting me be the disembodied voice.
No, I don't mind it. I think I was pushing against it because Ecamm has that feature. I wanted to kind of take advantage of it, but now at this point, it's just like, the bloom is off the rose. It's not the new toy anymore of being able to do that split screen thing. And so this is just fine by me. So yeah, thank you for calling, and I hope that everything with work gets better and you're able to sort of get back to making content if that's what you want to do. Right.
That is what I want to do. I love making content. I love consuming content, which I haven't been able to do either. And I love being creative. I love, just expressing myself in ways that are not, logical and analytical, because that's what I do most of my life.
Yep.
So I think that it's a great outlet. And, I love the fact that I can help other people with it. The messages that I get just, really keep me going and help me to understand that, sometimes I think as creators, we forget what impact we're having on our listeners or our viewers. And, sometimes we think, oh, I'm so tired, I can't make a video this week, or, oh, it'll be fine, nobody will even notice. And people do notice. They are watching. They're using our content in ways that are helping them and enriching their lives, and maybe even helping them cope.
Yeah.
And so I think it's just really cool that I can do something creative and fun, and it has like this amazing impact on people. And I just think that's, like, how awesome is that?
Yeah, that's completely mind-blowing. It's just really cool. The fact that, especially the fact that it's something that like you create from nothing, right? Like it's solely you're auteuring it. You have the means, you have the audience, and you have the channel to get through to the audience. It's like this is the ultimate communist dream, right? The means of production are all in your hands.
I know. And, I know that we slag off YouTube quite a bit, because they can be, a pain in the ass. But at the same time, at what point in history have the proletariat had this type of platform to, shout?
I can't see it going down well in other eras, right?
Shout whatever message they want from the rooftops. And, what opportunity in the history of the world have people had to seek out this variety of content, right? Like, especially, I think about my own situation, like growing up as a queer kid in, the Midwest in a very evangelical conservative religion. Like, I can't imagine how much different my life would have been if I would have had access to the internet or to YouTube or to, basically the technology that's available today.
Yeah.
My life would have been drastically different. Maybe I would have been able to come to terms with my sexuality sooner. Maybe I would have been able to have, different experiences in my life that, would have left me with maybe some better memories, or, just allowed me more time. And yeah, I mean, I don't know, getting off on a tangent again.
Well, but you're making the point, I think, is like probably not stated enough. Oh, I'm sure it's stated in other places, but the fact that these means are so readily available, that in itself, I feel like sometimes it's hard to like classify something as, well, this is objectively a good thing, right? Because there are all these negative things that also happen as a result of it.
Yeah.
But sure. I'm even curious, like, to see I'm not trying to start a new topic here, but I'm even curious to see what happens in Afghanistan in the future, because is now this sort of line of communication that didn't exist before, and maybe it can be completely quelled or quashed by the Taliban. I don't know. But when you have like these kind of mechanisms, I think one of the things they can do is prevent the isolation needed to have an effective authoritarian regime, or at least mitigate it somewhat, right? Because anyone potentially could have the world stage. You don't need to self-immolate in front of a tank, in front of the Chinese palace, the emperor's palace, in order to get on the news, right? Like, everybody has that sort of ability to do that. Now, I don't know how long that's going to last, right? Like, especially with respect to Afghanistan, I have no idea, but I certainly hope that it can help in some way. It seems like it would, even if it's controlled. It seems like it would be difficult to stamp out completely. But also the Taliban, they're very effective at doing what they do. So, fundamentalist religions for you.
Right. Back to our original topic.
Yeah.
Sort of.
So on that note, I'm going to probably end the stream. I'll say goodbye and then end the stream, but I'm probably going to end the stream here in a moment as my voice is starting to go. But thank you so much again Grace. And everybody, please be sure to check out Grace's Grove Audios. It's called now, right?
Grace's Grove Audio.
Grace's Grove Audio.
Or you can just look up Grace's Grove. You'll find it either way.
Okay, cool. And thank you again for coming on.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me. It's always great to talk with you.
I agree. Yeah, we should do it more.
Yes, we should.
All right, take care, Grace.
Right, later.
That was cool. I enjoyed doing this. I kind of want to. I enjoy doing the stories too, but it's been a while since. I think in the earlier podcasts, I did more just kind of talking with people about stuff. I would love to get back to doing that. And it's not all or nothing, right? Like we do a little bit of both, something one week, something another week. But thank you all for coming out tonight. I had no idea where this was going to go tonight. I didn't even know if we were actually going to talk about death. I just kind of thought, oh, well, I'm feeling morbid again. What can I call this? Kierkegaard came up with a phrase I like, so I'm going to put that in there. So I hope everybody is doing well, or at least okay. And I will see you here. I'm gonna bring in here at the end. Let's bring in that. Can I bring it? Where did that? This window disappeared. There it is. Let's bring you in. Oh, came in hot. I meant for it to come in not hot. To just kind of slowly bring it in. So whatever this is right now, probably work on it this week and bang it into something that has more of a shape. Yeah, it's very hollow right now. Like the fish that voice quills was calling out. Kick it. No. Making you wait for it. It's a terrible solo. Except for that bend. I like that bend. All right. Thank you all for coming out again tonight, and I will see you all soon, or talk to you all soon. Psychonauts 2 just came out, so although I want to finish playing the Rucker Hauer game, System Redux, Observer System Redux, no, I want to finish that before doing Psychonauts 2. I don't know if Psychonauts 2 is going to be great for streaming, because it is a very actiony, platformy game. I don't know. I might play it for a little bit and see if it's appropriate to stream. And if it is, then I will. If it's not, I'm not going to do it. So, either way, have a good rest of your week, and I will talk to you all, see you all soon. Take care, and have a good night.